Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne, and recently I watched the hugely popular Squid Game, which I'm sure you guys have seen on social media by now. It has held the top spot on Netflix for quite a few weeks now, and it's really made a huge impact in a short period of time. And Squid Game is part of a genre that I am a huge fan of, the killing game. One of the earliest examples of this is the novel Battle Royale, which I recently read and really enjoyed. It is a huge book, but if you're a fan of the movie, you definitely should give it a read because it gives you a much fuller experience of the story. In the West, the film franchise Saw is a good early example of this genre, as well as more recent additions to the genre like Hunger Games and Alice in Borderland. The major difference with Squid Game versus these other stories is that Squid Game seems to have attracted a pretty large crowd of children who are really interested in it, spawning tons and tons of Roblox versions of the game. So like I did with my creepypasta cartoon, I'm going to try to make a kids cartoon out of Squid Game. So the first thing I'm going to do to make this into a kids show is I'm going to select our main trio. A ton of kids shows have a trio as their main set of characters, and this is something that's not too hard to do with the Squid Game. The characters that I selected for our main three are, of course, the actual main character, 456, his closest friend in the game, 218, and then the North Korean defector character, who is 67. I feel like these three kind of become a trio in the story anyway, and so I definitely wanted to use them, and I de-aged them significantly because in kids shows, with an exception of a few regular show, generally the characters are also kids, and I thought this could really help make the story more kid-friendly and kid-appropriate. There are so many parts of the Squid Game that have to do with nostalgia and childhood, so this is actually a pretty easy adjustment to make. Now in 67's arms, I actually put the famous robotic doll thing that they have to deal with in the very first game. I thought that would be a cute little nod to what happens in the first episode, as well as giving our main character the little dalgona cookie that he has just carelessly bitten into. Lastly, there's a little hint towards something that's going to happen into the future when I gave 218 a little rope to hold on to, and generally I just wanted them to look like our primary cast, our main characters for this cartoon. My plan for this fake show that I'm creating is that these three are in a daycare, and the problem is that they're all very, very rambunctious. They need to constantly be entertained with fun games to play, otherwise they get into all kinds of mischief and cause all kinds of trouble. So basically the whole show is a push and pull between them and the guards or workers that have to watch over them. I want their personalities to be pretty similar. For our main character, 456, he is definitely the innocent and a bit more naive and friendly and definitely wants to interact with people. So that's all saying the same. He's sort of the gregarious and sweet one. 67 is going to be, much like herself in the actual show, a bit more standoffish, untrusting, and a little bit more sarcastic. I think she would provide a lot of the humor with her push and pull between her and the main character. And then for 218, he's mostly the same. I would say that in my cartoon version, he definitely would be a little bit more shy and sweet. Alright, the next element I have to include into this cartoon are the workers. They're actually workers, soldiers, and management, but I'm just going to call them the workers for simplicity, and they are the pink-suited guards, kind of, the ones who directly engage with, feed, and interact with the players the most. And as I alluded to earlier, basically their role in this cartoon is that they're trying to take care of all these rambunctious kids in the daycare. So I added in 2 more players as well. I made them even younger, not really because of the characters' actual ages, but more because they had less of a significant role. Either that or they were kind of treated like the baby in the story, even if they're not literally the youngest. So for example, 199, he is a super beloved character from this show, very sweet, very innocent, and he is a bit younger than a lot of the other characters, so I made him kind of the ultimate. He's kind of more like a toddler, and he's being held by the triangle worker I guess they're the soldiers. The soldier is holding him because he was trying to eat a marble, and that's a choking hazard. I also gave that soldier a water gun, of course, because we're not going to have any real guns in this show. I assume he just sprays the kids with it when they're being bad. And then there's also a worker who's trying to calm down 212, who is quite rambunctious. She has definitely been fighting a lot with the other kids, and they don't know what to do with her, frankly. Honestly, I didn't even realize how many aspects of the Squid Game are based around childhood. It actually makes this almost a little too easy. When I did this for creepypastas, there's a little bit more push from the concept because creepypastas are popular with kids, but they're really not aesthetically for kids, whereas the Squid Game, despite it being an extremely mature show, it definitely has a ton of aesthetics that are really childlike, and I think that was a huge part of the art direction of the entire thing. I think that the colors in the show are really fantastic, and I think that the green suits or like the teal kind of color outfits for the players are really great, and they contrast really well with these really dark pink outfits for the workers. I really liked the idea that originally I was going to have 3 workers together, like 1 triangle, 1 circle, and 1 square. I ended up with just these 2. I feel like because we have a main trio, having 2 sort of workers trying to deal with them would make for a more fun dynamic, so that's kind of what I went with. And yeah, I just really love how like the energy of the piece starts to come together once I added in these guys, because it kind of shows like how much chaos could happen in here because they're kind of outnumbered. In the actual show, there are a ton of workers for every single player, it seems like, but in this cartoon they're definitely going to be a little outnumbered. The last element I wanted to put in was the mysterious frontman. He is the strange masked figure that we see throughout, who seems to be in charge of everything. Again, I'm not going to get into any spoilers. As much as I can, I'm going to avoid them, as you've probably seen throughout this video, though I will say be careful checking the comments because I really can't control what people say down there. So if you have not watched the whole show and you're worried about spoilers, don't read the comments, okay? Anyway, yes, the frontman's very mysterious. He has this weird like low poly mask that I think is really spooky. It actually kind of reminds me of the masks in a movie I watched called Hotel Artemis. Anyway, I think it's a really great design. He does not fit well with this cartoony style as much as the players and the workers, so I had to work a little bit harder to make it look like he belongs here. I do actually think the contrast kind of works in a way. He almost has like a Mojo Jojo kind of vibe where everyone else is really bright. I guess Mojo Jojo is also really bright, but he definitely has like that strong cartoon villain kind of look about him, whereas everyone else looks really like fun and bouncy and like a good time. And I just wanted him to look like he's like totally at a loss, like he's pulling his hair out with all these friggin' kids and his bickering workers. He doesn't know how to run this daycare. I assume that there's some kind of subplot in the show where like the daycare is constantly about to run out of money, and like the kids have to sort of Rugrats style try to like keep it going. Even though they complain about it, they still want to be able to go here and play all the fun games. So that's one of the things that I think if this was a real cartoon, that would probably like keep the plot moving, you know? I definitely think including something about money in the cartoon version would be important, since Squid Game is pretty obviously a critique about how, at least currently, it seems like capitalism is making it so that people who are in extreme poverty get increasingly desperate and willing to do more and more harm to themselves and others just to try to get out of these horrible situations, while people who are not in those situations sort of sit back and treat it all like entertainment. Very similar to the Hunger Games. It's a pretty clear critique about this lack of empathy that people at the top have for the people at the bottom. The cartoon version probably wouldn't be quite so overt, especially since you can't really use any violence, but who knows? I mean, cartoons have been able to cover some pretty heavy stuff, so you never really know what the medium is capable of. The last thing I tried to do was add a little title up at the top. I ended up deciding to hand draw it just because I thought it would give it more of that like little kiddish kind of vibe. I'm not great at typography and that kind of thing, but I thought it turned out pretty cute. I turned it like rainbow at the end just to really give it that bright and colorful look that is in so many of the set pieces of this show. Let me know what you guys think about my cartoonified version of the Squid Game, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons, including Forrest Spookable, Michaela, Random Thoughts, Vegish, Tom the Chicken, it's Jamal, Kayla Grimes, Rodrigo, Neurocherry, Kelly Halsey, Kubo, Moomilk, Alani the Artist, Rylan Parker, Raylan, Kadaria, Something Super, Deadly Nightshade Art, Maria Vasquez, Astral Fox Art, Middle Z, Milky Bat, Lilia Lur, The Expressive Poker Face, Morrissey Axolotl, Tsubaki, Liliana Hammondtree, Michael Lavalley, Cutie Pie, Rainwater Pearls, Ice Cream Pal, Cola, Your Boy ST, JJ Jade, and of course, La Blah Blah Blah.